This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
It's precisely 6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Danushka Madhavala and read by Sharifa Tahir. Headlines. The notice issued regarding accepting of deposits for the local government elections has been cancelled. UNP mulling partnership with SLBC, other parties for LG polls. Mattala Airport to diversify as multi-purpose business centre. World food prices hit record high in 2022. Prime Minister urges public servants not to disrupt GCE A-level examination. Power Minister meets with the senior management and engineers of the CEB. In foreign news, Russia set to capture Solidar and its vast tunnel network. In sports, India beat Sri Lanka by 67 runs in the first match of the three-game ODI series. Local news in detail. Secretary to the Ministry of Local Government, Neil Bandara Hapuhinna, says the notice issued regarding stopping accepting of deposits for the local government elections has been cancelled. The Election Commissioner also confirms that accepting deposits for the election and relevant other activities are being carried out normally. Those activities will be carried out under the provisions of the Elections Commission. The United National Party has now started discussions with a number of parties, organizations and independent groups that support the government regarding how to compete in the upcoming local government elections. A number of discussions related to competing in this election were held between party officials and other party leaders in the last few days. The UNP also held discussions with Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. In future, there will be discussions with several other parties. United National Party Management Board officers participated in these discussions representing the party. It is stated that the discussions are not over yet, and at the end of the discussions, an official statement will be made regarding how the United National Party will compete in the local government elections. Meanwhile, the SLBC is scheduled to place deposits for the local government election for Ampara, Batiklo and Munaragala districts. The government has taken measures to begin business activities using the facilities at the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport. Cabinet spokesman and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that according to the layout of the Mattala Airport, there is a potential to transform the airport into a multi-purpose business centre by implementing business opportunities related to air operations as well as other non-air operations. The minister was speaking at the weekly cabinet media briefing held yesterday at the Government Information Department. Therefore, the focus is on taking measures to effectively utilize Mattala Airport facilities and assets by creating public-private partnership investment opportunities. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal presented by the Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation to call for expressions of intention from investors and strategic entrepreneurs engaged in direct and indirect aviation-related enterprises for carrying out aeronautical and non-aeronautical businesses at Mattala Airport. The UN Food Agency said that world food prices eased in December, marking the 9th consecutive monthly fall, but gained more than 14% in 2022 compared to the previous year to reach the highest since records began. The Food and Agriculture Organization's Food Price Index, which tracks international prices of the most globally traded food commodities, averaged 132.4 points last month compared with a revised 135 points for November. The November figure was previously given as 135.7 points. For 2022 as a whole, the benchmark index averaged 143.7 points, up 18 points or 14.3% from 2021 and the highest since record started in 1990. The decline in the index in December was driven by a steep drop in the international price of vegetable oils, together with some declines in cereal and meat prices, but mitigated by slight increases in those of sugar and dairy, the FAO said. The FAO said last year that food import costs in 2022 would lead the poorest countries to cut back on shipped volumes. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation giving you the news.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
Continuing with more stories here at home. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has said that more than 300,000 children sit for GCE advanced level examination and nobody should be allowed to disrupt the examinations. Addressing the government agents at the Home Ministry in Colombo yesterday, the Premier said any attempt to disrupt examinations that decides the future of these youth is a crime and urged the public servants not to be a party to any such act. Speaking at the meeting held to discuss the New Village, New Country National Coordinated Participatory Development Programme, the Prime Minister pointed out that GCE A-level examinations will be held shortly and it is the responsibility of district secretaries to ensure that the exams are held smoothly. The water supply to several areas will be suspended from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. tomorrow due to an essential maintenance work at Kandana Water Treatment Plant. According to the National Water Supply and Drainage Board, the water supply to Ingiriya, Horana, Bandaragama, Valmilla, Panadura, Keselwatta, Moratuwa, Kiriberiya, Piliandala, Kasbava, Vathara, Madapata, Kumbukka and Raigama will be suspended. That's local news for the moment.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Minister Kanchana Vijayasekara meets with the senior management and engineers of the Ceylon Electricity Board. In the meeting that was held yesterday morning, the Ceylon Electricity Board proposed electricity revision based on the calculation of the cost. There were extensive discussions about the payment for suppliers and renewable energy plans as well as institutional issues.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Brush your teeth twice a day for healthy teeth and gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, your trusted brands in oral care for many years.
Supiriviki Ayurvedic toothpaste for adults. Kakulu Ayurvedic toothpaste for kids. 9 Ayurvedic ingredients of Supiriviki will protect your teeth and strengthen your gums. Supiriviki and Kakulu, products from Siddhalepa.
And on Watchlight, Commander of Sri Lanka Army, Lieutenant General Wikum Lienage, has instructed the commanders of security forces headquarters and all relevant parties to expand operations and intelligence surveillance duties on drug trafficking. The Sri Lanka Army said 981 people have been arrested for illegal drug trafficking during raids conducted in coordination with the Sri Lanka Police and Special Task Force of Police acting on the intelligence gathered by the Army last year. That's on Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
World News headlines: Russia is set to capture Solidar and its vast tunnel network. Classified files found at Biden's former private office. Europe and polar regions bear brunt of warming in 2022. World News in detail. Russia looks set to capture the salt mining town of Solidar in eastern Ukraine, with Kiev calling the situation there extremely difficult. The fall of the small town would allow Russian troops to encircle the nearby city of Bakhmut. Russian troops and the mercenary Wagner Group were likely to now be in control of the town, the UK said. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said there was almost no life left in Solidar and no whole walls left. He also praised the resilience of his forces. He said the whole land near Solidar is covered with the corpses of the occupiers. The U.S. Justice Department is reviewing documents marked classified found in President Joe Biden's former office at a think tank, the White House says. About 10 of the files were discovered in a locked closet at the Penn Biden Center in Washington in November by Mr. Biden's legal team, his lawyer said. The batch has been handed over to the National Archives. Mr. Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, is facing a probe for taking classified files to Florida after his presidency. The documents discovered in Mr. Biden's office dated to his time as vice president, according to his lawyer. Mr. Biden, who served as President Barack Obama's second-in-command, left the position in January 2017. Finally, on world news, the polar regions and Europe were hit hardest by global warming in 2022, according to a new analysis. The data from Copernicus, the EU's climate monitoring service, says 2022 was the fifth warmest year globally. Europe experienced its warmest summer, with temperatures increasing by more than twice the global average over the past 3 decades, faster than any other continent. The last 8 years are now also the warmest 8 yet recorded. That's on World News.
Development News.
Sri Lanka Army has planted 60,000 saplings covering 600 hectares inside the Yala Sanctuary in close coordination with the Ministry of Wildlife and Forest Conservation by launching a national forest reforestation program recently. The Ministry of Defence said the entire reforestation drive covers Yala, Vattegama, Kabilitta and adjoining forest reserves. The 20 Sri Lanka Singha Regiment and 18 Gamanawat troops of the 121 Brigade, operating under the 12th Division of the Security Force Headquarters, Central, joined their hands with the Ministry of Wildlife and Forest Conservation and plans to complete the project by the end of January this year. That's on development news. Moving on to sports news. India beat Sri Lanka by 67 runs in the first match of the 3-game ODI series in Guwahati yesterday. Batting first, India scored 373 runs with a loss of 7 wickets at the end of their allotted 50 overs. Virat Kohli opened his account with 113 runs and captain Rohit Sharma played a blazing 83 on his return to international cricket after being out of action due to thumb injury. Shubman Gill scored 70 runs. Kasun Rajitha took 3 wickets. In reply, Sri Lanka were only able to score 306 runs with a loss of 8 wickets at the end of the 50th over. Sri Lankan skipper Dasun Shanaka scored 108 runs in 88 balls. Pathum Nissanka scored 72. Umran Malik took 3 wickets from India and Mohammad Siraj took 2 wickets. That's on Sports News.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
India's aviation regulator has pulled up an airline for leaving behind passengers on the tarmac in the southern Indian state of Karnataka. A flight by Go First, previously known as Go Air, took off from the airport in Bengaluru city, leaving more than 50 passengers forgotten in a bus. Reports said the travellers had checked in their baggage and had boarding passes in hand. The airline said it was investigating the incident. Go First apologized to passengers who complained on Twitter, but has yet to explain what caused the confusion. The Bengaluru-Delhi flight took off at 6:20 on Monday even as several passengers were still on one of its buses on the tarmac.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth ekata life ekේ change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship ekata menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
And on economic news, the governor of Eastern Province, Mrs. Anuradha Yahampat, said that the daily production of liquid milk in the province has increased to 164,000 litres. At a special meeting held recently at the governor's office in Trincomalee, the governor said about a year ago the production was only half of the current production of the daily milk production was increased due to more effective livestock management in the province. Model dairy farms have also been established. The Sustainable Dairy Farm project at a cost of 52 million rupees to reduce the damage caused by free-roaming cattle in the Eastern Province. That's on economic news.
Weather report.
The Met Department forecasts that mainly fair weather will prevail over most parts of the island. That's the weather update, and back to the headlines before we wind up this bulletin of news. Notice issued regarding stopping accepting of deposits for the local government elections has been cancelled. UNP in partnership with SLBC, other parties for LG polls. Motala Airport to diversify as multi-purpose business centre. World food prices hit record high in 2022. Prime Minister urges public servants not to disrupt GCE A-level examination. Power Minister meets with the senior management and engineers of the CEB. Foreign news, Russia set to capture Solidar and its vast tunnel network. In sports, India beat Sri Lanka by 67 runs in the first match of the 3-game ODI series. With that, we conclude the morning bulletin of news.